Hey guys, we are going to talk about argumentative writing, and we're going to be using the video game violence articles and more articles later to help us with breaking down the prompt and just the exact way that we would structure an argumentative essay and how that's different from an informational essay. As with any essay that you are going to write, you first want to unpack the prompt and begin planning. So unpacking this prompt, we are going to establish a purpose for reading. Write an essay for your school newspaper arguing whether or not playing aggressive video games contributes to real-world violence. Your essay must be based on the ideas, concepts, and information that can be determined through analysis of the provided passage set. So we already know how to do this. We've done this quite a few times, but the first verb that's telling you what to do is what? Write, of course. And then the noun phrase that follows it is an essay. Then the next verb is argue. So we want to argue what? What are we arguing? And I want you to pay close attention to this particular noun phrase because it is the basis for establishing our purpose for reading and for writing. Whether or not playing aggressive video games contributes to real-world violence. And then we want to base our ideas, concepts, information on the passage set. So we're using the passage set as our research. So what would my purpose for reading and writing be? I am writing to argue whether or not playing aggressive video games contributes to real-world violence. And if you remember correctly, our audience is the school newspaper. So remember to break down the prompt because this will help you single out exactly what your topic is. Next, we want to create a thesis statement and a claim. In argumentative writing, you must choose and stick to one side. So in this case, ask yourself, what are your options in proving your argument for this prompt? So you have two options of an argument that you could write about in your paper. Those are going to be aggressive video games contribute to real-world violence, or aggressive video games do not contribute to real-world violence. These are your choices as to what you can write about. And technically, these are the two choices of thesis statements for you. So choosing evidence. So after you've decided which side you're taking, you want to choose the evidence. So you're going to be given evidence, and you're going to sort the evidence that supports each of the following. So if we are writing to argue that aggressive video games contribute to violence, we must choose the evidence that most strongly supports video games causing violent behaviors. If we are writing to argue that aggressive video games do not contribute to violence, we must choose the evidence that most strongly supports a lack of connection between video games and violent behavior. So when you're about to start your planning, you want to return to the text and look through the evidence that you've picked out. So as you're reading, you want to pick out evidence that supports both sides, just in case you might change your mind before you start writing which side you're going to write about. So based on the based on the evidence that you choose in your text, you have to decide which ones you're going to use and which ones support what you're going to be writing about and which ones don't. Then, based on the ones that you have stronger evidence for, that's what you want to write your paper on. Not necessarily the side that you're taking or that you feel personally, because the goal is not for you to feel that way. The goal is for you to be able to strongly support the side that you've chosen. So you are going to look at the evidence that you have and decide which ones are strong evidence and which ones are not so strong. Remember, strong evidence is going to discuss research and facts, whereas weak evidence is going to have opinions and emotional appeals. So pay very close attention, because sometimes opinions can look like facts when they're really not. Now, after you've decided which side you're taking, then you need to create a thesis statement. And your thesis statement needs to clearly tell the reader which side of the argument that you are on. You cannot address both sides in your thesis statement. For example, you don't want to say there is a lot of controversy over whether or not video games cause real-world violence. You don't want to say something like, there's evidence to support that video games do not cause real-world violence, and there's evidence to support that they do. That is too wishy-washy. Do not put that kind of thing in your thesis. You have to be very clear as to what your paper is supporting, and you have to support one side. So with that, once you've chosen your side, it's going to be simple. Just aggressive video games contribute to real-world violence, or do not contribute to real-world violence. For a stronger thesis, you want to rephrase your statement, add some elements like the author, the title, or the genre, or alter the sentence construction, use synonyms, provide claims or reasons that connect to the sorted evidence. So you can make your thesis simply aggressive video games contribute to or don't contribute to real-world violence, and that's a good thesis. If you want it to be stronger, you can address the fact that your research came from the text set. So you could say, according to the text set, aggressive games, and then you go into your thesis. Or you could say aggressive video games contribute to real-world violence because of the connections between modeled behavior and exact behavior, or something. Whatever your topic sentences are, you're going to want to briefly touch on those in there. So we want to start by saying, in the article Video Games by Karen displays that aggressive video games contribute or not contribute to real-world violence. Where did I find this part of my topic sentence? I hope that you guys know this answer by now, directly in the prompt. The prompt specifically says this, displays aggressive video games to real-world violence. Your thesis statement needs to have what the prompt says in there somewhere. So you're going to write an essay for your new school paper arguing whether a person should remain neutral during times of stress. Write an essay for you. So I don't know where that sentence came from, but okay, creating a topic sentence. Now, independently revise your topic sentences by altering the sentence construction, using synonyms, applying different sentence stems, and employing altered elements of tag. So when you are creating your planning sheet, you want to think about your topic sentences and apply different sentence stems. For example, using different transitions like furthermore, not only this, but also that. Think about how you are going to change your topic sentence around so that it doesn't sound repetitive. So just like in an informational essay, you have structure that you need to keep when you're writing an argumentative. So your claim essentially is your topic sentence. You're going to have multiple claims throughout your essay. to support your thesis. Then you have your evidence stem, which introduces your evidence, like in the article it states. Then you want to provide your evidence and make sure that you provide at the end your parentheses of where you got it from. I prefer that you write source and then number and paragraph number as well. Then you want to elaborate. This connects your evidence to your claim. When you elaborate, you need a minimum of 2 sentences. And if one of your sentences is a restating of your evidence, then you definitely need to go on and explain further with examples or anecdotes or something of that nature. Then your evidence stem again, you could say furthermore, or also from the text or something of that nature. Then of course your evidence, and even if you paraphrase, you need to put parentheses at the end of your text or your evidence. Then again, elaborate, which is going to be a minimum of 2 sentences, and somewhere in there you need to put a counterclaim. Now 6th grade does not necessarily have to do this, but 7th grade you are required to put in a counterclaim, and then you want to wrap everything up. So if you're putting a counterclaim in here, you can put your counterclaim in between the 2 pieces of evidence. And the reason why I say this is because you're going to provide evidence that talks about your side, right? Maybe you took the side that video games do not cause violence. And then in the middle, you could say some people believe that video games do cause violence because of XYZ. And then your next piece of evidence, you could state, well, however, this is wrong because according to the text, da-da-da-da-da, and then elaborate further. So a counterclaim can be at the end, but a good place to put it is in between your 2 pieces of evidence in that paragraph, because you're going from your idea to talking about how some people disagree, and then you're talking about why those people are wrong with your next piece of evidence, which makes that a very strong argument. 6th grade, again, you don't have to put a counterclaim. I don't want you to be confused, but when you are addressing the opposite side, you want to make sure that you are discussing it as though the opposite side is wrong, not that they are correct. You also don't want to leave a piece of evidence for the opposite side that is supporting the opposite side, because again, that can be confusing. Any evidence that you're putting in your paper needs to support your side only. The counterclaim is only discussing how the other side feels differently, but not why they feel differently. Don't leave a big, strong piece of evidence to confuse your reader. So elaborative techniques. What is the purpose of elaboration? So we want to show that the evidence is meaningful and explain why it's important and connect the evidence to the claim. So how are we going to do that? Well, the evidence stem is going to introduce the information and direct from the text, and then your elaboration is going to explain why the evidence is important and how it supports the claim. Ways that you can do that is going to be by sharing a personal example or an anecdote, or in this case, an emotional appeal. Something maybe that happens in life that is common knowledge. These are all excellent elaboration techniques. And then your counterclaim, what is it? It is where you present the opposing side of your argument. Why do you want to do this? It strengthens your claim because you will also address why your side is better. So now that you have determined your stance, we're going to start talking about how to practice these things.